Alright, so you can see this on your screen, right? So I don't have to make it like gigantic. Okay. What's the problem, Ella?
Why is it just atmosphere and depth on it?
Because this is like covered up. I screwed it over. I mean, but really, isn't that all that matters? Yes. So they're all there. It's just like hidden. See?
You're over a foot taller than
Yeah. My girlfriend in college was 4'11". She's like, yeah, really short.
you. Just say I'm kidding.
Okay. So I'm going to go through like 6 things that you have to be able to explain, interpret, and write out in like the words that the AP test wants you to use. And then we're going to open up some scatter plots like on Google Images, and I'm going to have you describe those in the way that we're going through here. So the first 2 things is explanatory and response variable. Your explanatory variable, hopefully you can tell by the way I typed it, is your X variable. Thank you. Explanatory, that's the one that we think is explaining what's going on. So like in this situation, I think that if I tell you, or if you tell me your height, I can predict your shoe size. You can always look this up. The explanatory variable is the one that comes first. Like I think if you tell me this, I can predict the other thing. And the response variable is the one that is responding or reacting to the other thing. So in this case, I think shoe size is a function of height, or like the price of the pizza responds to how many toppings there are, or the grade on the test responds to how much you studied. So this is like the second thing. You might want to throw, sometimes they'll put independent, dependent on there. So the independent is the X and the dependent is the Y. Alright, describe the scatter plot. So this is what I'm going to have you guys do. I'm just doing the first one kind of for you. So if you are asked to describe a scatter plot, you got to tell me form, direction. So form is positive or negative. No, sorry. Form is linear or curved. So like our data right here, is that linear or curved? If it's curved, it'll be very, very obvious that it's curved. So it's almost always linear. So this is linear. Direction. So positive or negative. That's just like the slope. Is it sloping up or down? So is this positive or negative direction? It's positive. And then the strength. So strong, moderate, or weak. And I put like this kind of helps you out. So if it's closer to 0 for your R, you're going to say weak. If it's closer to 1, you're going to say strong. Moderate's kind of in the middle. And then you could even say, if it was like 0.75, they would accept strong. They would accept moderate. Or you could be really fancy and say like moderately strong. The same thing here. You mean my biceps? Yeah. So it's like 0.25. You could say weak or moderately weak. So yeah, this one. So our correlation here is 0.83. So I would say strong for that one. So let me do this one then. And then you have to put context also. So okay. So I would say for this graph, there is a linear, positive, strong relationship between height and shoe size. So this is like just in general how you do it, and this is applying it to this graph right here. Fair enough there? Interpret R. This is just direction, strength, context. So what did I leave out that I had in the previous one? So what's the difference between describe the scatter plot and interpret R? What's missing in interpret R? can't, I didn't put linear or curved, right? You can't tell linear or curved if I just give you R. So if I tell you like R equals 0.8, well, if I gave you this data, a line kind of goes through that decently. Like that might be an R of 0.8, but is that linear or curved? The data. It's curved. So if you only know R and you don't have the graph to look at, you can't tell if it's linear or curved. So R, you can describe this and this and this, but you can't tell if it's linear or curved. So for this one, I would say there is a positive, strong relationship between height and shoe size. If I have the graph, which I do, then I can say it's linear, but you can't in general, so I'm just going to leave it out for that. Questions on R? You guys are doing this in like 2 minutes. 5 minutes. Interpret the y-intercept. So, first of all, what is the y-intercept? Negative 34.75. So it's up here in your equation. I don't know if you guys can see that. I wrote it again over here, but it's the number that's like not next to the x, right? Because the number next to the x is your slope. So what the what the deal is with the y-intercept? You have a point on the y-intercept. That's always got to be 0, comma something, right? So the y-intercept is saying if x is 0, we would expect that y comes out to this. If x equals 0, and we put that like the context for x. If x is 0, we expect y to be, whatever it might be. The expect is a big deal. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. Like, we would have expected my shoe size to be up here, but was it? No, it's down here. We would have expected Mark's shoe size to be down here, but it's not. It's up there. This line only is like a predictor, like what's going to happen on average. It's what we expect. It doesn't mean every dot's going to fall perfectly on that line. So for this one, I would say, for a person 0 inches tall, we'd expect them to have a shoe size of negative 34.75. And then the AP test will very often ask this, and then they'll follow it up with, does that make sense in a real life situation? And you would just be like, right. Questions yet? One more. I know this is not the most fun. Just watching me type up here. This is probably the hardest one though. Interpret slope. So in general, the idea is for every increase in x by 1, we expect y to increase or decrease. What would make it decrease? What would be true about the slope if we're decreasing? Be negative, right? By whatever. So what's our slope in this graph? So it's the number in front of the x. 0.66, I wrote it up here. It's the number in front of the x. So that's really like 0.66 over 1. And then that's like y over x. So when x goes up by 1, let me see my arrow here. We would expect y to go up by 0.66. Again, it's expect, it's average. You can't say it happens every time. So if I wanted to interpret this, I would say for each additional inch in height, we expect the shoe size to, why is it increasing and not decreasing? Positive slope, 5.66. So I'm going to put up a graph in a second, and we're going to go through and do this for that graph together. Before I do that, are there any questions on this wording or anything I wrote up here? All right, go back to your Schoology folder. Click on Friday where it says Google Image Scatterplots. we're gonna type these into the comments. Like you're gonna submit it in that spot. Everybody see this? So you're just gonna start typing here. I just learned this morning. I don't know if you guys, some of the kids didn't know that. You can make this box bigger by clicking and dragging this arrow over here. Because it like sucks to type in this tiny thing, right? Yeah, you can't see it. So I didn't know this either. I know it, man. All right, so we're gonna do this graph. And they didn't tell us R. Like this. I just went to Google and looked for stuff instead of making up data. They don't give us R here, so we're just going to make it up. So we're going to say R. Oh, it flashed. There we go. Oh, it's zoomed in, so it's not writing in the right spot. All right, I'll show it over there. We're going to say R equals negative 0.4. Then be careful, because I'm going to do it with you, so that you don't be too careful. But they flipped this. Like they put the part with the X at the back instead of at the front, you know? So the number in front of the X is still your slope. So your slope is negative 0.72. And your y-intercept is 111.4. And we've got our R. So I want to write this up. Go through all the stuff we just did. I'm typing it up. So first of all, what's the explanatory variable? Explanatory. So that's temperature because it's on the x-axis, right? Daily temperature in Fahrenheit. Response variable. You can't see it? What's the problem? Oh, yeah, I see. You guys back to listen to the notes again?
No, we just have, I don't remember.
Very exciting.
It's not a good time.
Can you come back in like 5 minutes? Or just hang out for 5 minutes?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, okay. So what's the response variable? The response variable. Hot chocolate sales. This makes sense, right? Like the warmer it gets, the less hot chocolate you're probably going to sell. The colder it gets, the more you'll sell. So type this up, and then this is number one. We're going to do 2 or 3 of them. And you're going to like submit it all at the end. You with me? You're not with me yet? Why do you keep just smacking your keyboard?
Because it's not working.
You know what usually helps? Just punch the crap out of it, and that fixes it.
I agree. It actually does. I do it too.
Usually if I just go like that real quick, it works sometimes.
Reset it or like restart it?
Oh my god.
Consider what? Sit wherever you want. Mark, yours worked? The punching method was successful? Sarah? Oh my god!
He said, oh my god.
Beat the crap out of it.
I do it all the time.
So does this happen like a lot?
Yes.
Every day.
What do you do? This?
Yes.
But eventually like works.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Look at Mr. Davis. You look at it and you
God!
I swear to God.
Oh, just kidding.
That hurt your hand.
I got
I
it.
didn't use it at this point.
You're good?
Yeah.
Mark?
It's slow, but I'll get it.
Okay.
It's hot here. These are the time.
The next one would be I'd ask you to describe the scatter plot. Oh, you're punching your calculator. What are so violent for?
It's not working.
Jeez. Sarah, are you good if I keep going, or you want me to wait?
Okay.
Mark? Okay. So describe.
I will if I have to.
I'm scared if I like explain something to you you don't like, you're gonna punch me. All right.
I don't think I could reach you, so.
You punch me in the stomach at least. There is so you could do these in any order, but I usually go form, direction, strength. I don't know why, but is this linear or curved? Again, if it's curved, it'll be very, very obvious. So it's almost always linear. So there's a linear, positive or negative? Negative. Strong, weak, moderate, where are we at? So I think you can get away with weak or moderate. So moderate, 0.5 is moderate, basically. We're pretty close to 0.5. So you could say moderately weak, you could say moderate. I think weak would be accepted. I think strong would be marked wrong. I'm going to say moderately weak relationship. It's very tempting to stop there because you feel like you've done the stats, like you've listed the 3 things. But what am I still missing? The context, right? So between temperature and hot chocolate sales. Interpret R, so we're going to basically do the exact same thing we did and describe the scatter plot, except what's the one word we can't use? We can't use linear, because if I just know R, I can't say it's necessarily linear. But really, I could just like cut and paste this and erase the word linear. Like it's the exact same thing, it's just like one detail smaller. We all right? All right, interpret the y-intercepts. So what's the value of x if you are on the y-intercept? 0, right? You went 0 right or left, and then you went up to or down to whatever the y-intercept is. So, do it in context. If the temperature were 0, we expect, you don't have to capitalize it, I'm just doing it to like emphasize. We expect $111 in hot chocolate sales. So this is not the y-intercept because like this isn't, so it looks like the y-intercept on the graph, it looks like 78 or so, right? But this isn't going over to 0. So they like skipped a bunch of the x-axis, you know? So if I were to go all the way back, it's not actually right here, so be careful of that. And then the last one, interpret the slope. So the slope is negative 0.72. So I'm going to say for each, always for each additional x, and x in this case is temperature, so for each additional degree, let's say, or you could say for each additional temperature, it's kind of weird to say that. They don't grade on like grammar though, so. For each additional degree, we expect, again, you don't have to capitalize it, I'm just doing it to remind you, we expect a 0.72 increase or decrease. Decrease y, it's a negative slope in hot chocolate sales. It's English class today. Questions on any of those? There's 6 things there. Do you see where I'm getting them, how to do them? Anything I can help with on those? Alright. submit it. You got 2 more to do. I just gotta find, like, instead of making up data, I wanted to use, like, real data. Then I gotta find it. You're gonna use the one I find. I just don't have it yet. What is Clegg hardness? That came up last hour too. I didn't use it because I don't know what it is. We're gonna do this one. So this is year versus number of species. So I'm gonna help you out a little bit, and then I'm gonna let you like start writing. But just make sure you realize. So what's the slope before you start typing it all up? What's the slope here? That one, right? And then this is your y-intercepts. And they didn't give you r, but we can find it. What do we have to do? We got square root. So they're giving us r squared. So if you want r, you literally take the square root of it. So the square root of 0.2906. So r is actually 0.54. So we got our explanatory variable down here is year. Response is number of species. So I want you to do the same 6 things that we just did in number 1 as number 2. Does that make sense what I'm asking? Just put number 2 there. You could like cut and paste this if you want, and then like just delete the answers to number 1. And then we're probably gonna do one more after this, so don't submit yet. Oh, go ahead. I thought it'd be 5 minutes, but then there's like that whole violence issue. So that's too large. What's the balance? I suppose that would second well. But I know where's the store. Progression point. Yeah. Down in bars. It looks like it does the same thing, but it's actually stored the information now. So now if you go around it, do oh, you just didn't remember that part.
That's all you need.
Yeah, so that's that one.
How did you?
Amazing.
How did you get the line on top of the? You know what I'm talking about? So like, I don't need to like do this. Like, I have all my.
You have to know to do it.
Well, I don't need to like know how to do that. You know what I'm saying?
And do the bars, all that stuff.
Oh.
And like, it doesn't look like it did
Because
anything different. Now it should be
I was
correct.
clicking bars, but like I would go down the counts.
Doesn't look right.
So okay, that makes more sense. Okay. So then you just go to the sheet 2 and then do the second food.
So we have bars and variables.
Oh,
Like y variables. Good. So yeah, do that second one. I'll show you that. You good? No, it would be if the year was 0.
Yeah, but then how would we find
-432,680 species. So that like does that make sense in reality? No. That would be an interpretation. $217. So for each additional, this would be for each additional year, because year is your next period. We would expect 217.1 more species. No, I'm just reading. Yeah, it's like trying to tell you that I go to the next one. Thank you.
If you fall on the ground in the middle of class, then who's gonna have to worry about it?
Oh, so you're really just being selfish.
No, I'm trying to look out so you don't pass out.
So you don't have to do it. You're being selfish.
I don't want to do CPR. I had to do enough CPR.
You have to get the paddles. Yeah, the shockers. Gillis had to do it to someone like 3 years ago. The guy was dead. Gillis like brought him back. Yeah. Yeah.
3 years ago?
2, 3, 4. Yeah, something like that.
We were here?
Do you guys remember Mr. Protsky?
No.
He was a really big dude.
I think it was
It might have been when you were in 8th grade. Yeah. He was
Who was he?
probably 400 pounds, 450 pounds. And I think his heart just couldn't take it. And he was a TA. He had kids here at the school. Do you have the line on there? Alright, I'll get it.
She was gonna like send you a whole email.
No, that's okay. Don't submit, no. Oh, that's a good idea. No, it's okay. Because then I can't check it. Should I read through like what how to put for number 2? So the explanatory variable is year. Yeah, thank you. So explanatory variable is year. Response variable, number of species. For describe it, I would say there is a positive, moderate, linear relationship between year and species. For R, I would say there is a positive, moderate relationship. I'm choosing moderate because R is like 0.5, so it's kind of right in the middle. And then for y-intercepts, if it was year 0, we would expect negative 432,680 species, which I know doesn't make sense, but that's the interpretation. And then for slope, for each additional year, I expect 217 more species. Those okay? Maybe one more, I just gotta find another graph. It's hilarious. Are you a cat lady? Are you gonna be a cat lady when you go?
Yes. Deanna is a cat.
And then he actually died like 6 months later. Yeah.
Was that the basketball coach?
Yeah. Yes.
Remember that? Oh, I know who you're talking about. I know that guy.
Yeah. They're like traumatized feelings, actually.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
Wait, so he was like in his class?
I don't know where they were. But yeah, he wasn't doing anything out of the ordinary. He just like collapsed.
It's scary.
You don't have to be scared anymore.
Yes, it's not good. Was it like for the same reason?
Yeah. So this is how old you are and how many cats you have. So what's the slope? Just to make sure we're like on the same page before you start typing. 0.629. What's the y-intercepts? 0.2934. That's not r, right? That's r squared. So what do you have to do? You gotta square root it. Do you want me to do that? So you get your calculator.
Yeah. Thank you.
So 0.92. So once you get that one done, that's number 3. Then hit submit. You're good. This is a check mark, so I think you're probably gonna be glad you were here today. This would be annoying to make up the time.
Yeah. Same.
I was gonna go, but then like the weather, I was like, I don't want to waste a sick day and then yeah. But then there's not as many courts. It's gonna take forever. So I was hoping I could just go tomorrow. Hoping there's still some people playing tomorrow. Oh, it is. All right, I listened it up, so you should be good.
I think I have PTSD. Because I'm a lifeguard. Stuff happens all the time. And I'm the one that's taking care of it.
Each additional year. I mean, you could say each additional age. It would not be wrong. It just sounds really awkward. Do you have cats now? Huh?
No, my mom and my sister are both.
Gotcha. Do you want cats?
Yes.
It's just their stupid allergies that get in your way.
Yes.
That's my family also. I'm the allergic one.
My neighbor has a cat, and I like babysit for them. And I just like my cat.
You just want one.
Yeah. His name's Flynn, and he's so cute. I want a gray cat so bad. I'm so jealous.
Is Jenna your cat lady?
Yeah, I have 4.
Oh, really? So by the time, but according to
Doesn't she look
this,
like a cat lady?
you're gonna have like 10 when you're older. If you got all 3 in, then submit, yeah. And you can edit these also, which some people didn't know earlier, so I'm just making sure you guys do know that. So if you see something you put that you didn't mean to, just change it. If you're done with those, yeah. I think that was quite a bit, don't you? I think we accomplished a lot. So those yours are mine.
Yours. That's
No,
kind of funny
you do,
because
you
you
just-
said are they yours or mine, and I said yours. Well, you asked me if they're yours.
So that's your thing, you go into other people's classrooms, pick up stuff they own and just criticize it. see.
Ask Riley.
Riley is my lady. I didn't know I had scissors. I'm gonna count that as a win.
Well, I don't even know if it'll work. Did you see this?
Dude. Maybe it's just a straight edge. It's like a razor. Did you see the third one that we put? I can't remember which one it was. So this is the third one. If you have a question, let me know. It's not like a quiz. But you can ask for another question. Yep.
Yes.
Is good?
That's a shame. What experience very culture.
Yeah.
Who's like your teacher friends in school?
Why? Who upsets you? I mean, I get along with everybody, but I would say, like, Gillis, one of my best friends. Packer's one of my best friends. Aiden,
You guys like hang out.
Nate Rod.
Oh.
I used to live with Mr. Gillis, or Mr. Packer. Yeah, we had a house together when we first started. We used to all the time, but now that we all have kids, it's a little, just not as often. It's tougher. Who's getting rich? Why?
Christian told me you have a bunch of cryptocurrency.
How does Christian know what I have?
She said you told him.
Christian Miller
Christian
or Wilson?
Yeah.
I mean, I do have some. He has no idea how much.
What kind of car do you drive?
What kind of car do you drive?
A Ford Escape?
I have a Genesis.
What?
No one knows what it is. It's a Hyundai. It's a Hyundai, but like they're, you know how like a Lexus is, I think it's Toyota's like upper end. So Genesis is Hyundai's upper end.
I don't know what kind of car it is.
It's pretty sweet, huh?
I drive a Ford Flex.
What's that?
Huh?
She said fourplex? Oh, that is.
It's like the Fox.
Oh, gotcha.
I'll show you a picture.
You just drive a big rectangle around?
It's the first park. Yeah, I always park first. Because I can't walk first. I know, because someone took my spot when I went home. Look, it's this.
I like
Jeez.
these.
So if I had as much cryptocurrency as Christian thinks I do, I would be retired by now.
Mine's like tan.
No, yours is gray.
It is not gray. What? It's like brownish. Probably see it. Oh, me too. Yeah, you can see it from here.
Do you have cryptocurrency, Mark?
No, I wish I did. Dude, I want to, but I apparently.
My dad's looking at
I can find it.
Why do I look like that?
You don't have to answer, but raise your hand if your parents have cryptocurrency.
I don't know.
I think my dad might.
Raise your hand if your parents are like disgust having cryptocurrency. Like Bitcoin.
I don't fully understand how it works at all.
Always
trying to like tell me about it, but I
They are?
You know what?
They have some of them?
My
Yeah.
dad raised me. He's like, here's the, you have to earn your stocks. Okay. So explain it.
Explain Bitcoin? It's really hard.
No, can you explain? Have you seen the Fault in Our Stars?
It's like it's currency. But it's currency that's not tied to any government.
Because I have a real math question.
There's a Bitcoin ATM? Yeah.
Yeah.
I know someone that owns one of those. So he gets like
It
a
makes
cut
sense,
every
but it
time.
doesn't.
and he's owned it since Bitcoin was like $2. Like, he's like a billionaire because of that.
Okay, have you seen or read The Fault in Our Stars?
No.
Okay, so basically part of the plot is like they have this saying where it's like some infinities are larger than other infinities. Is that true or no?
Not. I mean, technically no, but I understand what they're trying to get at.
Because they were like, there's an infinite amount of numbers between 0 and 1,
Right.
but then between 0 and 2, there's more.
So I understand that concept, but like,
It's infinite.
right. So I don't know. It's kind of gray area. The school. Did you guys remember when the school got hacked a few years ago? They got their ransom in Bitcoin. Their ransom was 4 Bitcoins to like
4 Bitcoin.
unleash the. What's that? Yeah. They like crashed our servers and they demanded 4 Bitcoins to like.
4 Bitcoins? Is that a lot?
I mean, so right now 4 Bitcoins is like $240,000.
Oh my god. What is it? What? What can you use a Bitcoin for? You can go to the
Yeah, I
mall
know.
and have like,
You can buy stuff. It's money.
I can't go to GSP.
yeah, I saw these kids at the
No,
Bitcoin
you can't.
ATM.
But you could put Bitcoin in your bank
I was
account.
at the
and use
museum.
that.
I
Yeah.
saw these kids at the Bitcoin ATM and they got money from it.
Well, we have insurance, so we didn't pay it.
Oh,
They have like hacking insurance.
And back then it probably wasn't 240,000.
It was like 160,000 then. But like this is more interesting too. The company decided like, so the company we only paid it's like $1,000 a year. We paid insurance, so that's all we had to pay was our deductible or something. But the company decided it was cheaper to pay them the ransom than to go after them and find out who it was. They're just like, yeah,
What?
just take it, go away.
That's so lame.
And they
So
do
you
this
don't
to
know
like,
what it-
there were like 3 other schools in Michigan that happened to at the same time. So like, if they just do this over and over, I mean, like,
But I want to know who it was.
I don't know.
Yeah, that
like silver gray kind of. Sweet color. It's like, I'm turning it in though. We're getting a Tesla in a couple months.
Oh,
Like an SUV or a car?
That new one, the Y, it's like, they say SUV, but it looks more like a crossover, you know?
it's either Sam Halliday.
Yeah, let's get it electric. Wait, there is one now?
Sam Halliday, his dad has one, so his dad lets him drive it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I want to drive a Tesla. I like that you can make it fart. What?
So that's why, that's why
You
we're
can
buying
like, when you turn your turn signal on, you can make it fart. Or like, when someone sits down, you can make it fart.
it. It's weird, it's a one
And
pedal.
when it's in park, you can play games.
Yes, you can.
Go like this.
Yeah, so when you hit like, when you press down, it's gas, and then when you let off, it brakes. So
Oh
there's,
my
it's not
God.
too,
What if you can break suddenly?
then you just like let it off.
What?
If you let your foot off, it just, it stops.
Really?
Yeah.
You need to like retrain yourself.
It was hard, like when I test drove it, it took me like a couple minutes before I didn't like whiplash myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Self-driving.
Anybody in your backseat would go flying.
Yeah.
That would be the best one.
Yeah. They can just go.
Have a good weekend.
Oh yeah, handle your charger.
I saw.
Sorry, I forgot.
It only self-drives things.
That's lame AF. Bro, you spend all that money on